Welcome to our special Memorial Day episode of the Boston Chris podcast. North Carolina grown and Nashville based Trey Calloway grew up singing in church and was a seasoned performer by the age of 10. Although Southern and contemporary gospel were his first musical loves, as a teen, Trey developed a deep understanding and passion for the rocking, boot-stomping storytelling of 90s country legends and has been writing and performing country music ever since. Trey has opened shows for Joe Diffie, Tracy Lawrence, McBride and the Ride, Pat Green, Edwin McCain, and Craig Campbell, just to name a few, and has played for audiences at the Charlotte Speed Street NASCAR Festival, the House of Blues, Billy Bob's, and the Tennessee State Fair Opry Stage. Since mid-2023, Calloway has won Songwriter of the Year at the Texas Country Music Awards, has a music video featured on CMT. It's been picked up by Spotify editorial playlists, and is approaching 3 million streams on Spotify alone. As part of our special episode here on Memorial Day, we are talking about a brand new single from Trey that talks about veterans called She Misses Being Mrs., which is the story of a veteran widow or military widow. We're very excited to have Trey here on the Boston Chris Show for the very first time, and let's get into the show.
It's time to jam.
Hey y'all, this is Haley Wright, and I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to the Boston Chris Show.
Hey guys, Boston Chris here with another awesome podcast episode here with Trey Calloway. First time on our show, and I'm really excited to have him. This is actually kind of a bonus episode for us and a special edition of the Boston Chris podcast because this is going to be a Memorial Day episode. And we couldn't have a better artist on for that than Trey Calloway because the brand new single from Trey is a Memorial Day themed song called She Misses Being Mrs. And let's chat about that before we get into anything else, man. Tell us a little bit about this song and how it came to be.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Boston Chris. So this song is called She Misses Being Mrs., like you said. I wrote it with two of my great friends, Aaron Loy and Jim Hawkins. And it's a song about a boy and a girl who meet in high school and they fall in love. And he always dreams of being a soldier. And he tells her, he promises her, you know, I'm going to go do my duty to the country. And then when I come back, I'm going to love you for the rest of our lives. But that never happens. He dies in combat and leaves her a war widow. And she's the main character of the song. And she misses everything about him. But she misses, most importantly, she misses being his missus. And that's what the song's about. And there's actually a mysterious fourth ghost writer that we are looking for, a fella named Brett Smith, who lives in Florida, and he is 78 years old. And the story of how this works, the reason we can't find this guy, and we have to find him and give him writer credit, is because Aaron, who lives in Texas, one of my buddies, was flying to Nashville to write this song with us and met Brett on this flight. And Brett told him, you know, I've always dreamed of being a songwriter, but, you know, just business and life and time got away from me. But I've always had this hook. She misses being Mrs. I don't know what it's about, but you can have it and you can do what you want to do with it. And so Aaron really liked that hook and he threw it out at the right. We were like, man, that's great. So we wrote this song. And I believe that I was the one who had the idea about making it a military song, and we came up with this, you know, but we're off on this mission to find this Brett Smith guy who lives in Florida and is 78 years old, so we can give him some writer credit because it was his idea. You know, we gotta give credit where credit's due, and I'm glad I was the artist that was able to bring this song to life, and I think we'll find him eventually. Now that I've got a name, I had I didn't know his name for a long time, but now I recently figured out where he's from, who he is, and I think we're going to find him eventually.
Well, shoot, with a name like Smith, it's almost like not having a name, Trey.
I said Brett Smith. I wonder how many Brett Smiths in the world there are, but how many Brett Smiths from Florida who are 8 years old are there?
Well, hopefully that's narrowed it down some, right? But yeah, it's like, man, we don't have a name, but then you finally have a name, and the name is Smith.
Smith, yeah.
It's like, okay, well, we narrowed it down some, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Man, I love the alliteration in it, the Mrs. B and Mrs. It's so cool, and the wordplay in it. It's really neat to hear that came from somebody that you guys don't even know. That's badass.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And I think, I think it was kind of like destiny. I definitely believe in destiny. I believe that things happen for a reason. That Aaron was meant to meet that guy on that plane that day, and meant to be on his way to writing with us, and that this song was able to come to life. I mean, you got to think about how many things lined up perfectly. I had already put 6 songs in the can for this next album we're working on, and I called my producer Brandon Hood, and I said, hey man, I got this song. I really want it to come out for Memorial Day. I know we're in a hurry and we're on a time crunch. Not to mention he's got labels, beating down his door for deadlines and stuff like that. I said, can we get in the studio and do this song? He said, yeah, man. So we got it done and got it out by Memorial Day. But just think about from that man's brainchild to where the song is today. It's pretty cool. So we want to find the guy. We want to give him some writer credit.
Well, we'll make this into a little bit of a reel too, and put it out everywhere. Let's find Brett Smith, 78, from somewhere in Florida, you guys. So.
Yes, sir.
Spread the word. Let's give the man his credit on this great song, which was released May 9th of this year. And you guys can stream that everywhere you can find your music. You can go to the website as well, Trey Calloway Music, to purchase a copy of it. And make sure you do that, because it's a great tune. And when Scott sent me the song, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect for this holiday, and for kind of the environment that we are in with veterans, and how much this country, at least the populace, cares a lot about our veterans, right? But I appreciate the song as a former veteran, as also an Army brat, Navy brat as well. My dad was 20 years. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Boston Chris. Appreciate your service as well, man.
Yeah, no problem. Let's try to break the ice a little bit. Usually this is the first question I ask, but the single is so dang important to this episode that I wanted to get that out there first. But what are your favorite drinks right now, alcoholic or not?
So I gave up drinking about 3 years ago now. So
congratulations on that.
Well, in Boston Chris, let me just say this, that I think it's, as of now, tentatively, not permanent, not a permanent quit. So I don't want everybody going, oh, good for you, thank you. You're so strong. No, it's just simply because right now where I'm at in my music career, man, I've got blinders on. I'm trying to stay sober and keep my head on a swivel so I can make something of myself in this business. But man, I love to drink. So I'll tell you what my favorite drink was before I quit, and then I'll tell you what my favorite non-alcoholic drink is. So I really loved whiskey. I really loved old fashions. I guess I am an old fashioned kind of guy. So old fashioned just made a lot of sense for me. I really liked Fireball. I would take a lot of Fireball shots, which probably got me in more trouble than I cared.
Absolutely. Yep.
Fireball is dangerous stuff. And then I really liked Jägermeister when I was younger. Jaeger starts to wear on you for a while. To be honest with you, Chris, I didn't meet many boozes that I didn't like. So never was much of a beer guy. I liked beer. I liked the taste of beer. And if I was out at a NASCAR race or something, I'd drink beer. But it was usually liquor for me. And then my favorite, I'd say, I probably non-alcoholic. I'd say Diet Coke. I mean, I drink a lot of Diet Coke, but I love sugar-free Red Bulls as well. I don't drink coffee much anymore because it gives me heartburn when I'm getting ready to sing.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Red Bull doesn't. I love the taste of coffee, but I just can't drink it as much anymore. So I drink a lot of sugar-free Red Bull and then a lot of Diet Coke.
Love it.
Both bad for you, but
so
we all got to die something, man.
The debut record, 2016, was Carolina, man. So that means you were born and bred in North Carolina, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what was it like growing up in that part of the world?
Well, it's a great. The weather's great. I remember thinking when I moved to Nashville, being so surprised at how not great the weather is always. Nashville's weather is can be great, but is very chaotic.
Yeah.
1 minute it'll be storming, the next minute it'll be snowing, the next minute it'll be 103 degrees. But so living in where I lived in North Carolina, in the central part of North Carolina, around the Charlotte area is where I'm actually from. My folks live in a town called Mooresville now, which is where all the NASCAR shops are located. They call it Speed Street. But that's the mountains block all of those weather systems from that are hitting the Midwest and hitting the more central southern parts of the country. It blocks those, so we get this great little pocket of weather in North Carolina where I'm from, and so that's probably the biggest thing I miss is just the weather being great all the time in North Carolina, which is a big part of the reason why. Like, I met my wife; she's from Ohio. She loves North Carolina and South Carolina. She grew up going to the beach, Myrtle Beach, where I lived for about 6 years. That's actually where her and I met. And just Carolinas is just a place rooted in good music. I was raised Pentecostal. My dad was a Pentecostal evangelist when I was growing up, and so I grew up singing in church. He would, for those who might not know what an evangelist is, it's a traveling preacher. It's a preacher without his own church. So he would go and preach at other people's churches and do revivals, and I would sing before the congregation. And that's kind of what caught me the music bug at an early age. So, man, a lot of my early life was just baseball and gospel music and church and just good times, good memories.
So what, looking back at those times as a youngster, can you kind of pinpoint or point your finger at that first musical memory that you had? Like your first inundation to something musical?
Absolutely, I can. So I'll give you two that stand out pretty good for me. I remember the first time I sang in front of a church congregation, and I was probably 5 years old, maybe, and I sang "Angels Among Us" by Alabama. And I remember my mom and dad having a conversation in the kitchen about whether the song was gospel enough to play at church, because Alabama is a country band. And I remember my mom and dad talking. It was like, I don't know. And I don't remember which one it was that was arguing which point or not, but I remember I sang it and everybody loved it. And then I remember I was probably a little bit older at this time, but maybe 10 or 11 years old. And I was singing at a church called Oakdale Church of God, which is right there in Charlotte. And my leg, when I was younger, my leg would shake real bad when I would get on stage. And I mean, like noticeably shaking.
Yeah.
And everybody just thought I was like grooving or something. I don't know. But I hit it that I had stage fright. And I got over that stage fright probably when I was an early teenager. And it was just, but I remember very vividly the feeling of my leg not stopping shaking, and now everything's just kind of like another day at the office, pretty nervous about tonight, with this Bluebird debut, but I think I should be all right.
Oh man, it's such a great venue. I've only been there once, but man, like anybody who's played there, and I'm excited for you, man. It's
famous, man.
I'd be nervous as hell too.
Yeah.
Angels Among Us, man. The writer of that song has been on the show, Becky Hobbs.
Yeah. Very cool.
Actually had the story of how that song came to be on this very show. So, yeah, I love that song, and it wasn't meant to be a gospel song originally, and it came from an actual occurrence where she was in a car crash, and she shouldn't have survived it, and that's how that song came to be. Pretty cool stuff. Incredible. Yeah. Man, Bluebird, that's something else. And I've known who Trey is for a while. You do have kind of a footprint here in Texas, having been Songwriter of the Year for the Texas Country Music Awards. Yes, so how does that happen? Just briefly, we'll go off course just for a minute. How did your Texas footprint kind of come to be?
Well, one of the members of my team, a guy named Dom Sodas, he helps me with my social media, and he's booked some shows for me and stuff. He's from Houston, Texas. So he's always been a really big advocate of getting me into the Texas scene, because I feel like my music is a good mix between Nashville and Texas. I'm not I'm somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? I definitely have a 90s Nashville kind of throwback sound. So I fit in Texas, and he always wanted me to go down there and play. So I wrote a song called One Tough Job for my dad, because on top of being a Pentecostal evangelist, my dad paid the bills when I was a kid by being a construction worker. He worked as an electrician, and then he got into building commercial playgrounds for schools and parks and libraries and stuff like that. So my dad was always a construction worker when I was growing up. So I wrote this song called One Tough Job for my dad, and we entered it into the TCMA's first song of the year, and it won. That was the only thing I was able to be in, because I think in order to win other things, you have to play a certain amount of your shows in Texas.
Right,
and I have not reached that level to where I'm playing that many shows in Texas yet. Next year, we're going to try to tour a lot. And so hopefully a lot of those shows will be in Texas. So potentially I'll be able to win some more stuff. But it was super awesome. Linda, that is the boss of the TCMA, she's just incredible. She's never been anything but kind and supportive to and sweet to me. All of the Texas artists just kind of, even though I'm from North Carolina, none of them cared. It was like, hey, you're, treated me like one of them. And, the hat and the boots and the buckle has always been my look. As far back as I can remember, all of my heroes were Cowboy guys, all of them, George Strait and Garth Brooks and Alan Jackson. And rodeo is a big part of where I grew up. A lot of people don't know that J.B. Mooney, arguably the biggest rodeo cowboy of all time, is like from one town over from where I'm.
Wow. Cool.
He grew up riding at a place called Steagall's, which we went to Steagall's every Sunday. I grew up rodeoing, and I took my son to the rodeo from the time he was a baby. And so that culture's always been a big part of my life. And I just love it, man. I love Texas. I mean, I go down there and I feel like I'm at home. Home away from home, so to speak.
Yeah, it's good stuff, and you're right, man. Linda is very passionate, and she's built
great.
Something out of nothing, and then I have a lot of respect for her. And
yeah, she's great.
So you talked about growing up kind of around the church and all of that, and now you're a pretty you're a pretty busy songwriter. You write a lot of songs.
Yes, sir.
How do you feel as a songwriter about growing up in that kind of religious background? Are you able to openly write secular music, stuff that's not really grounded in the church? And how does that make you feel?
That's a great question. So I do sometimes have a little bit of an issue writing songs that are very, very secular. Secular is a good word to use. I try to, but it's also part of the reason why I'm that way is also because I'm a dad too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I want to write songs that, when my son listens to my music, is this going to be a positive influence on him or a negative influence on him? I've been in a lot of places, done a lot of bad, stupid stuff, made a lot of mistakes. And I know he's got to make those mistakes too, but I want my music to be a guiding light for young people, and not just what I'm selling to them to get them to buy my tickets.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think it's easy to write about stuff that gets people to go, oh, that's crazy, man. That's all, the drinking and the partying and the drugs. And it's easy to write about that stuff. You know what I mean? And now I'm not talking about like a Jelly Roll figure, somebody who sings about addiction and recovery. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about selling something to young people that ain't good for them. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. And I do have an issue with that sometimes. I try to write positive messages in my music, and call me square, call me lame. I really don't care. I want to be the guy. George Strait never had to write about none of that stuff. He never had to sing about none of that stuff.
Yeah, but like I said, man, the country music especially has a pretty big drinking culture.
Oh, absolutely.
Within their songs. Drinking beer, drinking whiskey, all of that stuff. And it's going to be tough when you're trying to be commercial, and that stuff is very commercial.
Yeah,
right.
I can't point any finger. When it comes to drinking songs, I got as many of them as the next guy. But, you asked me, do I have an issue with it sometimes in my heart? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
The answer is 100% yes.
It's going to be a struggle, right? Like,
it is. It is.
Because you want to be commercial, but you also want to be true to who you are. And it's very difficult to do in the music business.
And you want to be a positive influence on somebody's life.
Exactly. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So.
And unfortunately, sometimes positivity doesn't sell, right? Like,
amen.
It's unfortunate.
That's a great question, man. That's
Yeah.
a really good question.
Thank you, man. So you talked about being immersed in 90s music, especially country music as a kid. And I love how the first two influences you name are Garth Brooks and George Strait, who couldn't be more different if you in the same genre if you tried. And you knew early on you kind of wanted to be a country music star. You were, singing in front of people at 5 years old. So, like, what steps do you feel like you had to go through in order to kind of make that dream a reality?
Well, I they say you think your whole young career that I'm going to get this big break, and that's what's going to launch me, and that's going to be the thing that puts me on the map. And the longer in this business I go, the more I realize that it's not one big break. I think it's a series of small victories, a series of small steps you take. You go out and you make one fan at a time. You get one person to believe in you at a time. And sometimes it does happen fast. Sometimes for some people they'll have that big break, but for a lot of artists, they spend years and years and years grinding. And that's kind of what I've done from the time that I started making a little bit of money doing this until where I'm at now. It's been a long process. And if you've got to love this, if you don't love this business, if you're not in love with music and making music and being okay with, like, hey, I don't know where my next truck payment's going to come from. You know what I'm saying? If you're not okay with that, then this might not be the business for you, because it's a tough one. I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, are convinced that, like, hey, I'm just going to go be a big star. And it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Consistency is the key, right? I feel like
Amen.
You talk about, like, for me, like as a podcast host, right, or just a content creator in general, I'm of the same mindset as you, just trying to reach one listener at a time.
Amen.
But at the same time, I feel like my consistency and, the intrigue of an in-depth conversation, eventually you'll hit like this, maybe not a big break, but maybe just a little bit more of a hyper speed, right? Like where maybe you hit a different part of the algorithm or something like that just gets you in front of more ears. And
it's the momentum.
Yeah.
It's the moment, and that's kind of the phase that I guess I'm in right now. Is like we're pushing this boulder up a hill, and we're getting we're not to the top, but we're getting where it's getting a little bit easier. And the harder I push and the more I work, the more things start to happen and fall into place. And it's a good optimistic place. And I do have my days where I wake up and I go, man, what am I doing? I'm away from my wife a lot, and my family a lot. I miss a lot of things. I'm like, what am I doing? But then there are other days where I'm like, man, I'm right where I need to be.
And that's when you have to have those validating people in your life, right? Like that kind of speak over that inner voice for you. Yes. That's so important when you you're dealing with those imposter syndrome voices in your ear. And but man, you bust your ass. I see you out there, man. You're putting out lots of content. You're touring a lot. You're doing these radio interviews like crazy. I see you all over the place, man. So I know you're busting your ass out there, and I think that consistency will be the key. We did talk about you, we talked about you being kind of a really proficient songwriter. You write a lot of songs. And so I imagine, the wheat and the chaff kind of thing has to happen a lot with you, trying to pick out the good ones from perhaps the ones that don't really resonate with you as an artist personally. And I'm sure you're in the room with a lot of other writers too.
Oh, yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about a little bit with you is somebody who writes a lot of songs. Are you able to recognize, even with those voices kind of talking in your ears too, your strengths and weaknesses, like what you bring into a room as a writer with other writers?
Absolutely. So I've always, everybody tells me not to say this, but I keep saying it because I do truly believe that it's the truth. I am surrounded by more talented songwriters than me. I've got a knack for surrounding myself with people who just have a genius about writing songs. And I know my strength. My strength is I will take that song and I will go on stage with it and I will deliver it beautifully. I will perform it well, and I will bring that song to life on stage. But there are people who just have that thing where they can just, man, what about this line? And it's like, oh man, I never would have thought about that in a million years. So and I would say, my strengths are timing. I can say, hey, instead of saying it like this, take this syllable out, and it flows a lot better. We need 2 more syllables.
So
here.
phrasing, basically.
Mathematical. Yeah, more of a mathematical thing. Sometimes my songwriting is a little too on the nose. I say what I mean, and sometimes, the overly cleverness has become so prevalent in Nashville. Some that being, well, you're saying this, but it really means this.
Saying the same thing in a different way.
That's lost on me sometimes. I get help from my friends on that one.
So the more you're in rooms with different people, are you the kind of songwriter that's kind of picking up little tidbits from folks along the way, kind of sponging off of people and then using that later?
Absolutely. I never stop learning. I think that's the biggest mistake that not just artist, any person in general can make is thinking you know everything, man. I've spent the past I've been in town now for about 3.5 years. And, that's another reason not to get discouraged. They call it a 10-year town. And people look at me all the time and they go, man, you've only been here for 3.5 years. Look at how far you've come in just 3.5 years. And I'm like, I know, but sometimes I wake up and I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? Sometimes I wake up and I feel discouraged. But
the thing is, it was a 10-year town before the internet. I think it's sped up a little bit since the advent of the internet. I think it's more like a 7-year town now, if I'm keeping it honest.
I hope so, man.
Are you the kind of writer that's kind of in tune with your surroundings at all times? Kind of got your fishing pole with you at all times and is pulling.
Absolutely. So I enjoy. I've seen a funny interview of Hank Jr. talking about he doesn't like to co-write, and this was years ago. He said, I don't get in a room with people and try to write a song. And the fact of the matter is you have to do that if you want to write consistently and write a lot of songs. You have to do that. But I get what he means. I love to be out on a creek bank and a song come to me, or be in a bar and overhearing somebody's conversation, and they'll say something real catchy, and I'll write that down. Or a lot of times what will happen is I'll be playing a show, and somebody, an audience member, will come up and say something to me, and it'll sound like a song, and man, I'll write that down real fast. That's happened to me quite a few times. So I am very aware of my surroundings. That's probably the main way that I come up with hook ideas, is just, in conversation, listening to people talk.
I was just going to say, Bernie Nelson told me that conversation is lyrics to him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
100%.
And I love that, because like a lot of you songwriters, man, like when we're just talking, you're hearing melodies behind shit, and that's just
absolutely,
that's crazy to me to think in those terms.
My wife will say something, and I'll be like, hold on a second, just 1 second, and I'll be typing over here, and I'll be like, okay, what did you say?
I love that, man. So as part of your process for choosing, like, who was it that I think it was Jesse Robb told me he had A songs and B songs, and there were several different ways for him to know which was which. And so for you, with your A songs, are you maybe on the fence about certain songs, and then is part of your process like trying them out on a live audience to see the reaction?
Yeah, that's one thing that I just recently have really figured out, that the best way to tell if a song is any good or not is to go out and play it.
Yeah.
And if you go out and play it and people are like, oh, I really like that one, so okay, play it again. And some crowds will be more receptive, depending on what kind of song is. If you've got a rowdy crowd and you play a ballad to them, even if it's a really good ballad, they just might not be in the right mindset to hear something like that, right?
Yeah.
But if you play a barn burner for a rowdy crowd and they go, man, that song's great, you're on to something. So I've recently started to do that. That was one of the reasons I cut She Misses Being Mrs., because almost every time I would play that out, people would stop and they would really listen. And no, that's a great way to do it. That's just about the only way to do it, is to go out and really play them. And then you can also make changes to them. You go out and you play a song, and hey, this is a great song, but this one line's not hitting the right way. You know what I mean? So
are the members of your band helping you with that as well? Kind of.
The guys in my band learn songs usually after they come out. They'll learn my songs usually after they come out. I don't. My guitar player and I have co-written some stuff together. But man, they play so many shows, not just with me. They're busy making a living, man, so they don't always get to rock. But I would like to have somebody who plays music with me like that and helps me write songs, man. That's always a good thing. But usually just songwriters are the people I usually hang out with. And that's two different crowds, man. A lot of people don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Players are players and songwriters are songwriters usually. And I'm stuck somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, there's a select few that are both for sure, you know, but
I'm stuck somewhere in the middle, man. Because I make a living playing music and singing and playing guitar, but also, am focusing on my recording career as well, So
you're talking about a whole lot of time with writing and touring and playing out and being in the studios when the real work begins and all of that. And you have a family. You mentioned that already, having a wife and all of that stuff. Man, talk about a little bit about the balance between those two parts of your life, because obviously being a full-time musician was your dream. You're living your dream. At the same time, man, your wife and your child are going to be far above that dream. And I know that just as a father and a husband myself. So what things do you do to make sure that both sides of that are getting the attention they deserve?
Well, full disclosure, so I was married once before. My son is the son of my ex-wife.
Okay.
So her and I are both remarried now to great people. My son's name is Cash. He has 4 people, not only me and his mother, but my wife and her new husband, who love him with all their hearts, And so that's been a blessing in my life. My ex-wife's new husband's been a blessing in my life, just like my new wife has been a blessing in my life. And so my custody is a week of every month. So instead of like every other weekend, and he lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm from.
Okay.
So every month I go back to Charlotte and I get him for a whole week, and I take him to school and I get up and I cook his breakfast and I do this and then do that, take him to his taekwondo and to his football games. And I've really gone out of my way to, yes, it's a sacrifice, money financially wise. I miss out on work during those weeks, but what I've gained in the process, that relationship with him, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Because the only reason I'm doing this, besides the fact that music's the only thing I'm really good at, is I want to be somebody that he looks at one day and says, my dad, despite all of the challenges and all of the speed bumps and the obstacles in life, my dad chased his dream and I'm proud of him. He was somebody that always told me that if you really want something, you got to go for it 100%. Mm-hmm. And, that time I spend away from him, we talk all the time. We FaceTime, he and I are thick as thieves. And so the other side of it, I've been living here for three and a half years now. My wife and I have a house in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and that's where she lives. So my son lives in Charlotte. Oh, it's crazy, man. Oh, you asked Boston, Chris. I'm giving you
I love it. I'm
giving you the whole thing. I mean, there is a lot of sacrificing going on between me and her and my son. This is a crazy, crazy business, and I juggle all of it, and it is hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It's hard, but I juggle all of it. And, she's a civil engineer. She's out there chasing her career and her job too. We're in the process while we're still young of trying to make something of our lives. And we're thinking about trying to start a family next year. So it's, who knows what's going to happen in the future, but right now we're balancing it and we're working it out. But it's really tough, man. It's really tough. But
good I've got
the world's best wife. I'm probably partial, but I think I have the world's best wife and the world's best son. So.
Well, that's a good way to be biased, man, when it comes to family. I always say that, man. Don't be biased unless the people that you're biased to love you back, man. If they're not biased to you back, then you shouldn't be biased to them. It's hard, because I'm a sports fan, man. I'm biased to the Boston Red Sox, but they don't give a damn about me, what I'm saying?
I love the Red Sox, man. I anybody that plays against the Yankees, I like.
Oh, yeah, I feel you, bro. I feel you.
My grandpa grew up a Detroit Tigers fan, too. And he's from North Carolina. I have no idea why he pulled for the Tigers, but hey, I like the Tigers too.
All right, I got one last question before our brief commercial break, and then we'll do a couple of having fun segments with you. I think you have fun
Cool.
with. But I wanted to talk about the kind of the evolution process over the course of your career. Your first record was released in 2016. Your current record, which was released in 2024, that's 8 years between, right?
Yep.
Carolina Man and Wanted Man. Looking back over the course of that 8 years, can you kind of see an evolution and maturation process in your music?
Oh, absolutely. I love talking. I love when people ask me this. I love talking about it. So that Carolina Man album was all solo writes. It was all songs I'd written by myself as a young dad or as a young this or whatever. They were all songs I'd written by myself. So we went to the studio. Some of those songs, I'd say at least over half of them are well over 4-minute songs. The Wanted Man album is very much polished. Is more of a polished commercial country music album. The Carolina Man album, that first album, is just here's my emotions, here's my songs.
Yeah,
it is what it is. There's good and bads because, like I said, a lot of those songs are way too long. If I had it to do over again, I'd go in and I'd chop whole minute sections out of a lot of those songs and restructure them and stuff. But I wouldn't change anything about them because.
Would you say there was less freedom involved in Wanted Man as per Carolina?
No. If anything, quite the opposite. So
okay, great.
The Carolina Man album, these are great questions. I mean, the Carolina Man album was, hey kid, go sit in the corner.
Yeah.
We're gonna track this music and then we'll let you know when we're ready for you to sing.
Yeah.
And it was very much that. The Wanted Man album, as well as this new album I'm working on now, I don't want to say co-producing, but I had a lot of influence in the way the music sounded and in the way they came out, and that was really freeing. The Wanted Man album, even though it is more polished and commercial, was definitely more of a freeing experience, which is, I know, counterintuitive, but
no, that's great, man. I love that. Do you feel like there was in between the two records, do you feel like it was more polished because of things you learned over time? Like,
absolutely.
Being in rooms with other great writers?
Yeah. You're never going to get a radio DJ to play a song that's 4.5 minutes.
Absolutely not. Yeah, not in this format. No. Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. Is if you want your song to get played on the radio, it's got to be, no more than 3:30. I mean, really, honestly, at the end of the day. So that's kind of, even now. I mean, golly, we're getting back to the way it was in the '60s. I mean, I'm seeing dudes with 2 minutes and 30-second songs.
Yep.
I mean, golly, I listen to hip hop and all kinds of music, and sometimes I'll hear a hip hop song and the song's like 1 minute and 53 seconds long, and I'm like, golly, where's the meat of the song? But it's just hook chorus out, and that's the song, And but no, the Wanted Man album was very much more of a freeing thing.
I love
that. We polished it, and I learned how to structure a song because there is a magic to songwriting that you kind of have to figure out, because other than that, it's more or less just poetry, and you're kind of rambling.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it that people don't realize either, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You talk about the magic of songwriting, man. Being in the studio is magic, right? You've already got the full-fledged song, but now you bring that to a producer who has a completely different set of ears than you, and is most likely has a better set of ears than you, right? More times than not.
That's my favorite part of the music business.
Yeah.
Is being in the studio. I love playing live. And I love songwriting, but man, being in the studio is just my favorite part of all of it, man. I love recording songs, and it's just my favorite part. And the producer that did the Wanted Man album is a guy named Grady Saxman, and he did a wonderful job on that album, man. I mean, he nailed it out of the park. And then a guy named Brandon Hood is doing this new album for me, and he's working with Ty Myers and Mackenzie Carpenter. He's just all over the place, man. He's really doing good, and I'm just happy to be working with him, man.
Yeah.
He's a genius, both of them, all the producers I've worked with. I mean, a guy named Mike Rogers produced the Carolina Man album, and he did a great job too. So,
I think it's better personally to have different producers over time, right? Yeah. I mean, for example, you look at Kenny Chesney, who's one of the uber successful artists of our generation. Yeah. And he legitimately had one producer, Buddy Cannon. That was it. To my knowledge, it's just Buddy Cannon. And that's not a problem per se because it worked, right? Like, again, generational artist. But it would have been cool to see somebody else's kind of take on Kenny Chesney as an artist.
Absolutely.
And I'm a huge Buddy Cannon fan, you know.
Oh yeah, me too. I think
Yeah.
I think artists, once they find that person who clicks with them, they stick with them because it's like almost like you don't want to, you don't want to break a formula if it's
Well, it's like another appendage, right? It's like having three arms. You know what to expect from that person, and they know what to
Right.
expect from you.
Amen.
Yeah, so yeah, it makes sense. But speaking of a great producer, I have a quick commercial from our friend Pappy Middleton down there at Palmyra Studios, who is still looking for understudies, and he's still recording in reel-to-reel, you guys. You want to learn the opposite of digital? Pappy Middleton's your guy. Check it out.
I'm putting it together right now, and I'd love to get it out that any student, I don't care how old you are or what, if your heart lies within this kind of domain of the sound, playing, any of that, I'm gonna start taking one day out of every couple of weeks and invite students in for a very small charge. And I will tell you whatever you want. Any question you got, I'll try to answer it.
Well, I will certainly put that out there. I'll make this a little ad for you, and we can share it.
Because they'll have full access to the studio, everything. I can tell them everything about how all of this started from analog into the digital world, and you'll be able to have hands-on. And I'll show you why analog sounds better than digital.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll definitely cut this out. I'll make a little ad out of it, and we can share it everywhere.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Because I'd love to do it. That's my legacy, is to leave with.
It's the pass it down, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So we're back with the one and only Trey Calloway, and we're gonna have some fun with Trey real quick before we let him get ready for his debut at the Bluebird tonight. These are our having fun segments. The very first one I'm gonna ask you is it's called "Did You Know?" Can you tell us something your fans may not know about you?
Oh man. Golly, something that they don't know about me. I'm pretty open book usually. I'm kind of a sci-fi nerd. My mom raised me to be a sci-fi nerd. I love Star Trek and Star Wars and RoboCop and
Well, you like both. Usually people are one or the other.
No, if I had to pick between Star Wars and Star Trek, I'd pick Star Trek.
Oh, obviously, you listed that first, so I kind of
as
figured.
an adult. Yeah. I would say Star Wars is more for kids. Star Trek is more for adults. And I would say when I was a kid, it was Star Wars. As an adult, Star Trek. But I love RoboCop and Terminator. Terminator is probably my favorite movie of all time.
Let's go.
I'm kind of a sci-fi nerd. My mom turned me into a sci-fi nerd. So
love it.
That's like the thing. That's the thing we did. But so my dad made me love fishing and camping and all that stuff and baseball and football, and then my mom turned me into a sci-fi nerd.
All right, I'm gonna hit you with one. This is called Mount Rushmore. This will be a first time for this one. Okay, so we know we're both 90s country nerds. Yeah. So we know that 90s was kind of the era of the country band, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about. So who would be on your Mount Rushmore of 90s country bands?
Shenandoah is number one.
Okay.
Sorry. I love Diamond Rio. Diamond Rio is probably number two. Now, I picked four, right?
Yep.
So I'll say Shenandoah, Diamond Rio. I'm going to say Restless Heart, number three.
Okay. Now it gets tough.
Yeah, because I only got one more left.
Yep.
Ah, man. I'm going to say McBride the Ride.
I love it. Let's go.
Because I love Terry.
Terry is such a sweetheart, man.
Yeah.
That guy is a freaking hoot, dude. I love Terry McBride.
And if I had a fifth one, it'd be Black Hawk.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah. So
there was so many good ones, man. Yeah, there was so many good ones. Just a couple that you missed: Confederate Railroad, Alabama.
I know, and I love
Sleep
so many
at the
of them.
Wheel. There's so many, dude. All right. Next segment is called "What the Heck." So this is just rapid fire. Just tell me the first thing that hits your brain and out your mouth. All right. Number one, would you rather have to read aloud everything you read or sing everything you have to say aloud?
I'd rather have to sing everything I have to say out loud.
Okay. All right.
I do that already.
Yeah. Number two, if you
drive
could
my
go
wife
back
nuts.
and witness anything in history, what would it be?
Elvis's comeback special.
Ooh, 68. Let's go. Love that. All right. Number three. Yeah, that's goosebumps every time I watch it, dude.
Yeah.
All right, and I wasn't even around then, right? So like I wasn't without Elvis for 10 years, so I can't
Yeah.
even imagine what that was
Yeah.
like just that dude being back. All right,
Yeah.
number 3. Let's see. Which celebrity annoys you the most?
Lately, Kanye West. He gets that guy, shut up.
There with you, dude. All right.
He's getting dunked on enough though.
All right, number 4. What is the funniest thing you have ever wore?
Funniest thing ever. So I was in a play in high school, and we were doing Annie, and I was Sandy the dog, so I had to wear this full on dog get up. It was horrible.
Okay.
It was bad.
All right, number 5. This will be the last one. Why do you think McDonald's doesn't serve hot dogs?
I don't know, but they should because I love hot dogs. I didn't they at one time and they stopped.
They might have.
I think they did at one time and they stopped. They probably weren't selling.
It sucks,
honestly,
man.
it's
Just the
probably what it was. They probably
McWiener. I
stopped
want to
it.
have a McWiener.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're there with me. You know what's up.
Yeah.
All
And I
right.
do. I love McRib. I hate it every time they take it away. I'm one of the guys that loves McRibs.
Yeah, I hate that, man. Here, you can have it. No, you can't. Here, you can have it. No, you can't. It's going away forever. No, it's not. All right, next one's called One Artist. Who is one artist that you wish everybody in the world knew about, other than yourself?
Yeah, can't say me. Okay. Golly, I'm gonna say one artist I wish everybody knew about. Oh man, I want to say like one of my buddies. I want to say one of my friends. I got a buddy named Jacob Jones that I really like. That guy, he's a good guy. He and I are kind of kindred spirits when it comes to our love of music. We write songs together and stuff. Jacob's a good guy.
All right, cool. Next one's called Wishlist. What's on your wish list of things you still want to do?
Grand Ole Opry. That's the only one. Grand Ole Opry. I mean, honestly, I just that's the end all be all for me, man. If I play the Grand Ole Opry just once, I just want to do it one time, man.
Well, that's gonna happen, I'm pretty sure. So
I hope so.
I'm gonna have to ask you that question. I'm gonna have to ask you
that.
that question again when it happens. So
Everybody keeps saying that, and I'm like, man, I'm ready.
oh
ready.
man, so there's just certain things that you can see that are meant to be, and that's one, I think, for sure.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah,
Thanks,
of course. Man, what do you think is your personal best accomplishment up to this point? Doesn't have to be musical related either.
Yeah, it would be my son being born and marrying my wife Raina. I think those are the two. Those are the two best things that's ever happened to me.
Nice. All right, next. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying those the two best things ever happened to me, man.
All right, next one's called Moment of Gravity. We're wrapping up here soon. So Moment of Gravity is basically, you can kind of, most times in your life, you can look back and see that one part of your life that kind of changed everything for you, right? Whether it was a person or an event or a thing like a guitar or just something, but you can look back and you know that's when everything changed for you. Do you have that moment?
Absolutely. So during the pandemic, I had like pretty much kind of given up a little bit. I'd been living in Myrtle Beach and playing around there for a long time, and nothing was really happening. And so during the pandemic, I went to work for my dad, and I remember it was like I was like 100 degrees outside one day, and we were shoveling something heavy, and I was just exhausted. And I remember, like, I swear I stared up at the sun. I mean, I know it's not good for you, but I heard God talking to me, and I had really, like, I was like, screw this. I'm done with music. I'm just going to be a regular guy, and I'm going to get a regular job and get married and whatever, just be a normal guy. And I heard God talking to me, and he's like, this ain't what you're supposed to be doing. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing right now. So what's the point? Why do I bless you with all of these songs? Why do I bless you with all of this talent if you're not going to use it? And that was it, man. I took it to heart, and I got right back into playing again. And here we are, just a few years later. So,
yeah,
but I wasn't. Boston Chris, I was close to quitting. I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, that's that validating moment that we were talking about earlier, right?
That was it. Yeah.
Nice stuff. All right, last segment is called "Who Do You Think You Are?" So who is Trey Calloway?
When I'm dead and gone. I hope everybody that knew me remembers me as a guy who wasn't perfect, but tried really hard to get better every day. And I'm not perfect. You know, I get angry, I get jealous. You know, I get I get down on myself sometimes, but I always try to improve myself and try to be better. And I want the ones that love me to know that he wasn't perfect, but he tried really hard to be for us.
Yeah. Awesome
Yeah,
stuff, man. We're in 2025 and the future is bright for Trey.
Thank you, sir.
You talked about new music on the horizon. So what can we expect for the rest of this year from you?
I'm working on a new album. So She Misses Being Mrs. was the first single off that new album. I got one coming up in just about another month and a half. We're going to be releasing singles all summer and all through the rest of the year. And then we're trying to plan a tour. That's really the next big mountain to climb is to get out on the road.
Well, man, I appreciate you being here. And so people want to follow along with you. It's TreyCallawayMusic.com. You can find all of his tour dates on here. He stays busy, very, very busy. You'll find his social medias there, which is, Facebook is Trey Calloway Music. X is Trey_Calloway, and Instagram is Trey Calloway Music as well. Trey Calloway 1 on YouTube and Trey Calloway Music on TikTok. Those are the ones listed here. So you guys can follow along with all of that. We're going to put all of that in the description down below for y'all that want to follow along. Make sure you're picking up She Misses Being Mrs. If you don't want to purchase it, you can also support the artist by just calling your radio station, the one you listen to in the car. You don't even realize it's playing, but call that radio station and demand that they get Trey Calloway in their playlist. Trey, thank you so much for being here tonight, man.
Thanks, Boston Chris. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
I'm Jody.
And I'm Jordan.
Together we are
The
the Couldn't
Couldn't
Be
Be
Happiers.
Happiers.
Thanks for tuning in to the Boston Chris podcast.